All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker up on TSN. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill. There's our good buddy Jonas Siegel of The Athletic. What a show we have in store this afternoon.
Wow, what a fun day to be around the building. All the insiders are looking around with their cell phones. They're they're reporting on deals. It's a fun time. It's a fun time. And it's a fun time to be in the building.
Yeah, it is. There is a lot of buzz. We just had, a bunch of guys roll through, too. Fans of the show that came in, said hi. We got a picture. The Grappler was doing his old tricks, back up to his old tricks.
It's always nice when you can win something like that and someone in senior management can take you around.
That's actually true. I'm a little bit surprised that Grappler didn't say someone else has to take care of this. I have more on my plate, but he's a man of the people as well, so it was great to see him.
And I'll tell you one other thing. We're going to get through some of the transactions today, and before I have to go down to do the panel for the Leafs, I'm going to report on a golf hack that I did today that anyone can do.
Okay, anyone? Could Jonas pull it off? What kind of
If you're a serious golfer and you like golf clothes, this is hey.
Okay.
It's a golf life hack, and it's valuable. And before I leave, I'm going to explain what it is.
Okay, I love it. All right, I am genuinely curious, and I look forward to that. I thought you were talking about like a tip. Something to do. Yeah, exactly.
It is a tip. It's a tip.
It's a tip. Okay. It's an important tip?
Yes.
It's like a feel good, look good, play good type tip?
It's about feeling safe.
Okay. Right, feeling safe. I like that. All right, so do not leave here without that tip. I will tackle you. I know you're on the panel tonight.
Who do we have at 5 o'clock?
We have...
MJ?
No, we got Ray coming on. Ray's coming on.
Ray Ferraro at 5 o'clock, and then I am going to give you my golf hack life tip before I go down to the panel.
So we've got that coming up at 5:30. We have Wayne Simmonds in studio later in the hour. And you were mentioning, the buzz in this place, right?
Somebody put some effort into this show today.
There's a lot of effort.
Jesus,
there's
Bobby McKenzie standing right over there.
Let's bring him in here. Bob McKenzie is in the house. And Bobby Mack, we had to make him do a walk-in just to see if he'd be, cool with that or embarrassed by that. I mean, you've done it all in the industry, Bob, but... Yeah, chair.
It's very high.
It's very high. Doogie. Are you good, Doogie? Are we good here with this chair? You okay there, Bob? I don't want to.
Chair? Let me see if I can go down a couple of notches.
Yes.
I'm stuck.
There you go. You got that wiggle going. Bob still got the wiggle.
Doogie, that's a strike against you. You should have had the chair ready, Bob.
Can't have that. We're talking
Got to know that in the industry.
A living legend here, Bob McKenzie. But, Bob, I just saw you over the cap because you were mentioning we're seeing people all over the place. I see Bob McKenzie. I'm like, now we're cooking.
Shanghai, baby.
That's right.
Wrangled.
Now we're cooking with gas. Good to see you.
Good. Here for the Outsider segment for a couple of days.
Absolutely. So you just got in. You'll be here tomorrow, bright and early, right? And what do you make of it?
Very much. Came in from Florida last night and going back to Florida tomorrow night. Doing the quick 48 hours, and here we are.
That's a life
tomorrow
hack.
night? Like you're not even staying that
Yeah, once I found out we were off the air at 5 o'clock and there was an 8 p.m.
You went right on your laptop, didn't you? And said, what flights get me out?
Is Hazy B on that flight too?
I'm on the next morning. 12 hours later, I'm probably on the same bird. They come back up, they'll pick me up on Saturday morning.
There you go.
Right down to RSW, right?
Yeah.
We know exactly where we're going.
Yes, we do.
Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Yeah, I mean, you've done how many of these over your career, like trade centers and...
I guess we kind of, for lack of a better term, we kind of invented the day.
Right.
Because there never used to be. There was obviously a trade deadline day. There was never a show. So I can remember it morphing from, it's deadline day. We all got to be, it was me and Gord Miller in the newsroom. That was 2 buildings ago, TSN, and we'd be there and we'd be working on trades. But there was nothing on during the day. It was like motoring 1967,
right.
We were running back then, fishing shows, darts, whatever. And they would do updates on the hour or half hour, and Jim Van Horn would go on and do updates. And it was me and Gord Miller sitting around the newsroom calling people and finding out about trades and giving the information to Jim Van Horn because there might have been an internet back then, but if it wasn't working in any sophisticated way that anybody was getting their news that way. And we would give them the information. and he would go on and update and read it. And
so would he say, like, Bob McKenzie handed this to me, or would Jim be like, I'm reporting on this?
Or I have an update.
He would just say, he goes, Montreal Canadiens have made a trade, they've done this, blah, 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 and give the details. There was it was one of my favorite deadline stories. If we got time for this?
Yes, absolutely.
What the hell, so I'm talking to somebody on the phone. In the old building, there was a staircase, and it was one of those ones where the newsroom was the studio.
What kind of phone are we talking back in that day, Bob?
Would have been
flip phone?
It would have been. I'm trying to remember. So somebody look up when Vincent Damphousse was traded from the Montreal Canadiens to, I think, San Jose.
You didn't get that by a text.
That's a landline.
And
That's a phone on the wall.
I was on the landline talking to somebody.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, there was a staircase right. I had a little unit you sit in, the same as the newsroom there now, a little office carrel thing or whatever you sit in. And so the staircase is there, and Jim Van Horn would stand at the bottom of the staircase. It was a nice shot, and he was literally like 4 or 5 feet behind me. And so I was talking, and I heard them counting down. They're going, okay, Jim, we're on in 10 seconds. And I'm like, and I'm talking to somebody, and he goes, okay, he says, Damphousse is going from Montreal to San Jose. I think that was the deal. Mm-hmm. And I said, done? And they go, yeah, it's done. And so I hang up, and they're counting like 7-6, and I turn around and I look at Jim Van Horn, and I said, Vincent Damphousse, Montreal to San Jose, done. And he goes, done? And they're like 3, 2, 1. And Jim, it was. I always say it was the fastest we've ever broken a trade in the history of anything, because it was from my ear to my lips to Jim Van Horn all in 10, 15
and
seconds.
And boom, on the air.
On the air. So that's great. He reports it. I get a phone call back.
Not happening.
I get a phone call back, and the guy goes, can you hold that for another 15 or 20 minutes?
No, you can't.
I'm like, no. And it got really sticky because Damphousse was on the Montreal Canadiens charter. They were playing in Edmonton or Vancouver. I can't remember which one. And so they knew it was deadline day, and the reporters used to travel on the plane with the Canadiens. And one of the French language daily guys, remember the stat phone on the plane where you paid like about $200, you could talk for about 3 minutes, and that he was calling back to his office to see if there was any updates, and they said, Tabernac, Vincent Damphousse has been traded. TSN reported this, and so it spread like wildfire on the plane. Damphousse didn't even know.
Wow.
And that, because we always joke, Gordon and I joke, because Donald Beauchamp, who was the PR director for the Canadiens afterwards.
Did he hate your guts?
And he didn't hate our guts, but he called Gordon, he goes, this is not good, Gord. This is not good at all. Mr. Corey is not happy. You're not going to hear the end of this.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah. Blame Gord. I love it. That's where you say it's Jim Van Horn. It's not us. Go talk to him. We didn't do anything. Well, because you see and hear some wild stories over the years about how trades go down. Like we had Mike Camilleri on, Cammy probably a year or two ago. Remember, he got pulled out of a game like in the second period or something.
I was doing
the
that
Habs in Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was in the game, and he gets pulled out of the game. And
I was doing that game.
That was crazy. Because I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm pretty sure Cammy said like I wasn't a big fan. Like why is this happening while I'm playing?
Well, that's why everybody is held out for trade-related reasons.
Yeah.
Right, which makes sense, I guess. Because they would have known the trade was close before puck drop. You would assume.
You would think so, but I guess they got it done, and they just decided, hey, you never know. So,
yeah.
And it was the Wild West back then.
I guess.
Bobby, from what you've seen in the last, I would guess, 2 to 3 years, do you think two things will come to a head in the NHL? One is the LTIR, and seems like that's a consistent kind of theme with winning anyway. Mm-hmm. And the other one is players heavily favoring like the non-taxable markets, where it's like, are those two items, do you think, is it going to come to a head?
The second one, I don't think there's anything you can do about it. I don't think the league, I don't think the league or the PA or anybody wants to try and get into equalization of how do you calculate some sort of ridiculously complex formula on something like that. When in some instances, taxes are a consideration, but so walking out in the sunshine. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe you get a weather tax.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
So, but I mean, if you're given the choice, and it's nothing against Buffalo or Toronto or Winnipeg or Edmonton or anything else, and the dynamic changes because now Edmonton's got Connor McDavid, and so somebody might say, I want to play there. McDavid, Draisaitl are going to win a cup. I want to be there for that. But there's a lot of guys who are predisposed to not want the pressure of a Canadian market, or what could be, hey, listen, I didn't retire to Buffalo or Edmonton. I semi-retired to Southwest Florida. And if you go over to a game in Sunrise, you can see why a player would want to play in Sunrise. And why not? Yeah. So I don't know how you can legislate choice out of that, because free agency is free agency, and you keep these players tied up for a minimum of 7-8 years out of the gate in their career. They got to give them freedom sometime. It's a pretty restrictive system in the National Hockey League, and that. And what was the other one? The LTIR.
That one's spicy. Like the Roberto Luongo tweet is wild for
an executive.
For an executive, I know.
For the Panthers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really funny.
the Kevin Nash fake cast.
He really does a good job on social media.
It's great.
Louis does. But again, in a cap system, there's so many inequities. I mean, everybody makes a big deal out of this, the Vegas syndrome or whatever you want to call it. But, I mean, the Leafs perfected it with Robidas Island, in different circumstance, not in terms of icing the best possible playoff team, but in terms of getting rid of contracts that you don't want to pay anymore because the guy's old, worn out, and is probably injured to the extent that he can't play at an NHL level anymore. But the other one is, the ridiculous trading of Chris Pronger's contract, and all these deals where teams are using these to get to the floor. So that whole thing is a bit of a sham from the get-go, but I don't think the NHL wants to police that either, because they don't, at the end of the day, I don't think the league proper really cares, because so long as franchise values continue to go up, they're going to give the teams the tools they need to be as competitive as they can be in a cap environment. And they don't want to muck it up with a whole bunch of rules about this and that and everything else. Basically the rule is you got to get to the floor and you can't go over the cap. And if you're in between, fire away.
Yeah, I find it very confusing at times, kind of an amateur vibe, but I think to further that point, I think the league stance is the players get 50% of the revenue, and that's the way it works.
Exactly.
And we don't care who it is, who it's not. Like that's
basically that's
the way it goes.
That's basically it. And so if it's a little unruly, or it seems like things are getting made up as you go along, I guess you could say that. But I think at the end of the day, if you know what the system is, then so Vegas knows what the system is, and they're doing it. Now, the flip side of that is, and everybody's assuming 100% that on opening night of the playoffs, Mark Stone comes trotting out, good as gold. Well, we'll see. Because if he's not, then the system's designed to make that equitable for teams that are losing guys, to be able to add guys so that you can be competitive at the end of the year.
And they're not the only team to do it. Tampa, remember when they won, they were way over the cap, and they were gloating about it. They wore shirts that were saying we're, $18 million over or whatever it was. Bob McKenzie in studio. The Leafs made a deal today. Joel Edmundson is here for a third and a fifth rounder. They picked up Lyubushkin, I guess, last week for a similar price. Edmundson technically shoots left, but he can play on both sides. He's a monster, 6'5", like 230. He won a cup in St. Louis. He went to a cup final with Montreal. I like this strategy. I like this move. I didn't think they could completely overturn their defense core at this trade deadline. So when in doubt, I would go with size, physicality, nastiness. I think that's Treliving's repertoire. Like, that's his reputation. He likes big, kind of massive defensemen when in doubt. But, I know you're tracking the Leafs kind of from afar, but what do you make of this and where they're kind of going at this point?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the deal per se, because I think when you look at the Leaf defense, it doesn't, especially because there seems to be so much turnover in terms of injuries and the age of some of the guys, Giordano, and they went through the Muzzin thing, and then he got injured and he wasn't able to play. So the Leafs have been on this course for years of trying to add that type of player, but Edmundson is a depth guy, and I don't know if he's necessarily the difference between winning or losing a series against the Boston Bruins, but you've got to. You got to keep swinging. If you're the general manager, you got to keep swinging. You're using up. The Leafs like to say, well, we don't want to give up a first round pick, and we don't want to thing. But they could also be nickel and diming their way out of all these draft picks, and still end up with a team that you're looking at it and like,
are they good enough?
Are they really that much better?
Mm-hmm. That's the debate, and I mean...
And if you're playing Boston in the first round and you lose, and then it's going to be the same deal. Treliving is going to get the same treatment that Kyle Dubas got, is you went out and spent money on...
It'll be the opposite. It'll be like, why didn't you spend the first round pick?
Yeah,
depends on who it
why
was.
didn't you not do anything, or
right.
or spend the first round pick? But you're right. So, but I don't know that there's the whole give up the first round pick. What's there to give it up for? Well, should they have given up a first round pick for
Tanev was probably the guy
for Allen, or
and
I think they, I don't know, because I really truly am the outsider, and I'm just cramming. It's like reminds me.
Do you block people's numbers now if they try to?
No,
get in touch?
This is like high school. I never went to class very often, and university never went to class.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy.
But then I'd have to go write the exam, and I would still study for the exam and generally pass it.
Get over the line.
And so that's all I'm trying to do is just not trying to get a D or a C plus tomorrow. But that said, I think they might have been prepared to give up their first round pick for Tanev, but I don't think it was enough for Calgary. I think they settled on the deal that they did, and so it wasn't there. The deal wasn't there to be made.
Right. You can't get everybody, right? Like Dallas wanted Tanev, they got him. Vegas wanted Hanifin. I'm not sure if Hanifin was a fit here anyway. And once you move past those two guys, at least what we have on the trade bait board, there aren't like crazy game changers available on defense.
No,
there really aren't. Sean Walker's not a game changer, and that cost them a first. I know Johansson had to go the other way, but for me, I'm fine with doing it this way. It's bring in Lyubushkin, bring in Edmundson, bring in size, try to simplify your defense, block shots, hit everyone in sight, protect the front of the net. That's going to be the plan. And I don't know if it'll work. It'll put an emphasis on the offense and the best players to take advantage when they can. But that was always going to be the case with the Leafs, right? And it feels like Leafs-Bruins, like that's kind of where we're going. And, tonight we'll have a factor on that. If the Leafs can win a game in regulation, maybe home ice is still available.
I never, ever put any stock in regular season records versus what happens in the playoffs. But because it's the Bruins and there's so much Leaf-Bruin history, as part of my homework for this week, I actually watched the game the other night.
The Bruins game on Monday.
The Bruins game Monday, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh my God, the Leafs look terrible. Mm-hmm. Like just. It's the same old. They
didn't look great.
Same old.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious, is there any reason to believe tonight will be any different?
Listen, last night they did not play well. That was one of the
hardest
worst
games to watch.
I've halfway through it, I'm like, I've committed too much time of my life to this.
Awful hockey game. And Buffalo owes everyone an apology.
Yeah.
Too. They were terrible last night. That was an awful hockey game. But at the same time, they get the win. I think there's an illness coursing through the room. McCabe didn't play last night. They all kind of looked like they were dragging a bit. And in the end, Matthews gets to 54, which, you would have been...
That's the only thing you could take out of that game.
Well,
honestly. The win, and he got...
Samsonov was pretty good.
Samsonov was really good. But, Bob, you're probably a perfect guy to ask on that. Like, you would have been covering the Leafs in the 80s and Rick Five and...
Yeah.
Like we talk. How often did we talk about it before Matthews got here? We're like, there's 3 guys in Leaf history that have scored 50. And they all did it within the same range.
It was Vive Leeman and
Andreychuk.
Yeah,
and they all did it within like 10 years of each other. And Vive did it 3 different times.
Yeah,
and now this guy.
And in the 80s, that was the Wild West in terms of scoring goals. And
right.
The numbers were pretty remarkable back then.
So what do you make of Matthews, what he's become in Leaf history and how it all wraps in?
Yeah, it's insane. He's obviously the best goal scorer in Leaf history, bar none. And, he's got a chance to be
Does he have to win in the playoffs? Like, he has to, doesn't he? Like, doesn't that go without saying?
Yeah,
you have to do that?
I think everybody carries. I mean, even Ray Bourque, as good as he was until he went to Colorado and won, people were holding against him that he had. But and there's the funny thing about it. Like, what if when Ray Bourque went to Colorado, they didn't win? Honestly, would you look back now and say, "Wow, that Ray Bourque,
great player"? That's what I want. A hockey player, like hockey talk, is like great guy. I never won though.
Never won. So
now he did. So that ends.
So it ends. And but the thing is, he did it like right at the end of his career. Like,
literally 20 years in.
And not with the Bruins.
Yeah.
So, like, Auston Matthews might win a cup. It might not be in Toronto.
I know. It's sickening to think, but he could be 38 and the Salt Lake City Coyotes are winning cups.
And when we start talking about Matthews and where he might fit, again, I don't know. I'm curious, how long will Auston Matthews want to play? Will he want to play as long as Ovechkin? Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. Maybe he'll get to like 34 or 35 and say, "See ya.
I've had enough."
I'm out of here. Lots of guys are like that.
How much money do you need?
He'll make he's already made a fortune.
Yeah, and that. So yeah, I don't know. And he's it's pretty remarkable the way he scores, and he's scoring goals all different ways now. It's like he's one-timing it, he's doing it from this side, he's doing it from that side, he's doing it in tight, he's slipped it between the goalie's legs, he's wrapping it around, he's deflecting shots. There isn't any way he's not scoring goals.
Last night was a beauty. Like, that Marner setup was unreal. But that's back-to-back nights. McDavid to Draisaitl, Marner to Matthews, 24 hours.
Incredible plays.
Just incredible players and incredible plays. Pierre LeBrun reporting Tyler Toffoli sitting out tonight. Asset management. So he's getting dealt. There he goes.
So we're going with that instead of trade-related regions?
Yes, asset management. But that's interesting. Like, Toffoli's been flipped a lot in his career.
Yeah, he has. He has, and he always seems to, wherever he goes, he seems to do well enough that...
Look at the 3 years Beauvillier's had. He was kind of a good little player in Long Island.
Yeah.
And he went to Vancouver, then he went to Chicago.
And
now he's in Nashville.
Yeah.
In a year and a half span.
Yeah, that moves quick, man.
It does. Life comes at you fast. Or Barry Trotz comes at you fast.
Yeah.
From the eye. Barry knows him from his Islanders days.
Right, of course. Yeah, I love Barry Trotz. He's like, these prices are ridiculous. Like, well, what are you asking for your assets? Like, you're the GM now. Are you asking totally appropriate prices for whoever you're willing to trade? Funny how that works. All right, Bob. Great seeing you, man.
Great to see you guys.
We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Say goodbye to you, too.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow and then see you later. Good seeing you. There's Bob McKenzie, the hockey outsider, joining us in studio. Wayne Simmonds coming up. We got Wayne Simmonds in studio today. We got Pierre LeBrun in studio, Bruce Boudreau in studio.
What a show.
Ray Ferraro today.
And a golf life hack to save you.
To save us. I can't wait to hear this. You better be telling the truth here.
Dude,
you better have something that's going to change my life personally.
I need a good golf hack.
All right, Bob. Well, listen up at 5:30.
This is about style and safety.
Oh, I don't care about that.
Well, when you hear this one, you're going to want to know.
I have a bad feeling I know what's coming, and I don't want to know. I think I know, but I don't want to know. But we'll find out. We have no other option. That's right around 5:25, the life hack for all life hacks. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Wayne Simmonds in studio later this hour. Raptors and Leafs both in action tonight. Raptors massive dogs in Phoenix. This could get ugly again tonight. Saw on FanDuel, I think they're like a 10.5-point dog. That doesn't seem like enough points considering what we just saw. Like, it feels like they might get blown out by 20, 25.
In Phoenix?
In Phoenix.
Oh, KD and Booker will just tee off on them.
But you just got embarrassed. You just lost by 40
Dude, it
plus.
doesn't matter, man.
I don't know. What's the number?
I think it's 10.5.
Booker's not playing.
All right, KD.
Yeah, take the point.
You're going to take the points?
I'll bet you $100. I'll bet you $100. I'll bet anyone $100.
Yeah, I'm not going to take action on it because I don't want it to get ugly for them. But
they
it
just
was
got beat
so
by
ugly.
48.
41.
41?
41. You would expect a professional response, right?
Yeah.
And like not win tonight, but cover 10.5.
Phoenix
I'm not
isn't
taking the
amazing,
action.
though. They're not.
But they're getting better. Like the West is loaded for the most part through 10 teams. Like the Lakers and the Warriors are still, I think, the 9 and 10.
Saw the Warriors just blew out the Bucks last night.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Like, and they just rolled through the East Coast. They're still doing it, man. They went through the Garden. They obviously beat the Raptors.
I saw them here.
They got smoked by Boston, but you were down there for that
game.
It was
very cool.
There you go. Seeing Steph up close and personal.
Yeah.
They were all playing. Draymond.
Yeah, they have to.
Chris Paul and Clay. Yeah, they need them all. And then Leafs are in Boston tonight. I haven't heard anything on Joel Edmundson. Will he play tonight?
I wouldn't think so.
But
I don't know. I guess like he could. Where was
Washington's in Pittsburgh, I believe. Pittsburgh to Boston.
They don't usually do that anymore. Like they kind of don't want to rush it, and it's not like they're short on D. But it's an important game. Blah blah blah.
I'd play him. I mean, if absolutely, because of who he is. Like, there's no breakout with Joel Edmundson. It's like go out there and crush people and make an impact early. Block a couple shots, throw your body around, cross-check someone through the ground.
Here's the thing. What did Mark Mathot say that one of his coaches told him to do? Not join the rush, not start offensive, put out fires.
Exactly.
Put out fires.
Exactly.
And I know, Jonas, that's not Jonas porn.
You know what?
But it's porn for a lot of other people.
This. All right, what do you got for us?
So I'm of two minds. Like, you need to build almost like these two different defense groups. Mm-hmm. And the one that you need in the regular season isn't really the one you need in the playoffs.
Exactly.
The only thing I disagree with you about with the Edmundson acquisition, like I don't disagree with your point that like he makes some sense. It's just like it's like an imperfect solution. Like it's another 5-6 for a team that has 1,000,000
Yes.
And so it's like, was there no better solution? Was there no creative solution?
I think one thing I'll say about that, Jonas, is I think Edmondson's, I think we'll call him a 5+.
Okay.
Because I think he's got more experience, he's bigger, rangier.
You're
I just think there's something more there than just to say he's a 5. I think you can call him a 5+.
He's better than Benoit. I think he'll end up playing.
Edmondson's playing.
Like he'll play ahead of Liljegren, I would think.
Yes, I think he will.
So yeah.
People have to brace for that. And that is a perfect example of what you just talked about. Regular season, Timothy Liljegren is a more impactful player.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, not even close.
Yeah.
And anyone that thinks Liljegren
gets caved in and buried.
He's too casual. He gets pushed off pucks.
Yeah.
He gets buried. There is not a hockey person on earth, I don't believe, that would look at a 7-game war and say, I'll take Liljegren over Edmundson. I don't believe there is one.
Not one. And if you do, if you are, you're insane.
Yes, because can Edmundson make a first pass like Liljegren? No. Can he possibly, augment a rush like Liljegren? Liljegren gives a little bit of offense. That's not going to happen here. But what he is going to supply is he's going to block shots, hit, and protect the front of the net. And he's going to simplify things. And I think that's the only reasonable philosophy here. We all share the same assessment. Everybody does. The defense corps is not good enough. But I did not believe, leading up to the trade deadline, that it was possible to turn it over enough where we're going to feel great about it. If you brought in Hanifin and Tanev as a pair, but that's just not realistic.
Like but it's only realistic if you don't think it's realistic, right? If you're willing to give up what you need to give up, it is realistic. Right?
I suppose if Calgary's willing to work with Tree Living, which I'm not sure they are.
Yeah,
I'm not sure they are. But at the same time, if you threw Easton Cowan on the table, they'd be stupid not to accept that.
And I think that's a reasonable part of the conversation. Like,
right.
What are you willing to do?
Which would be silly. Again, Easton Cowan for a rental would be silly. Because, again, Tanev, I like Tanev a lot.
Yeah.
Tanev's like
but Tanev solves your problem.
4+.
But he solves your problem. Like suddenly you have like
a new item.
I like that. I think you own that.
5+. I like that.
And even Hanifin's a really good player. This is not a perennial Norris candidate.
No.
Like because he's number one on the trade bait board.
Dude, he's a talented guy. But people are talking about this guy like he's Bobby Orr.
Exactly.
Like, settle down.
Like he goes to Vegas. It's Theodore Pietrangelo, Hanifin.
Yeah.
He doesn't push them out of the top.
Yeah.
Like he's a 3. That's
and
what
if Martinez is healthy and trusted by the coaches, maybe he's looking behind him.
4.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good, really good player. Not disputing that.
Yes, but it's not like you give up the world for that guy.
Exactly. And so again, we all concede. I concede. If you brought them in, you'd feel a lot better about the Leafs.
Yep.
But let's say those weren't options. I prefer size, physicality, nastiness, and give that a shot for the playoffs. I will take that every day of the week, and I think that's what Tree Living's doing here.
What a brilliant idea, because that's what you need to succeed in the playoffs.
Well, that is the
Thinking
reality.
Anything differently is like we've said it a million times. The National Hockey League of all 4 of the major sports, it's the one come playoff time where the style of play is completely different than the regular season.
We do this every year. We see it every year.
Yes, it's completely different.
Yeah, and it's the ice shrinks. It gets nastier. It gets more physical. And what I think Edmundson and LaBouche can bring in terms of what the other team is thinking is when they come over the boards, they'll look at them and say, they're probably going to make my life A lot more difficult. Doesn't mean that they won't expose them. Doesn't mean they won't make mistakes. Doesn't mean you can play these guys 23, 24 minutes a night.
The opposition would rather go into the corner with some circus carnies than these guys.
Every single day of the week. Guys that can motor and skate and exits and all that, which are valuable. I'm not disputing that. Of course it's important. But if the option is 6'5", 230 nasty or 5'11", 185 and can move, I'm taking the former. And I think Brad Treliving has proven through his actions here he believes that should be the case too. We'll see. Listen, there will be a referendum on this once it all is said and done. There's no disputing that. If they win, if they lose, we'll look back on this, and they may not be done. Who knows what happens between now and 3? Like, I kind of feel like it's going to be quiet for them the rest of the way, but they put Lagesson on waivers, but that's not enough money to add.
And they need a roster spot.
Right. I think Robertson's getting dealt between now and 3 p.m. tomorrow. It feels that way, doesn't it? I don't know.
It?
Well, he didn't. Wasn't there a Marlies game that he didn't play in?
Yeah, he didn't play. Yeah. Which, again, I think that's asset management. But I don't think it's worth trading him because you're just like, we're done with him, we're moving on. You get a fresh lease on life. If he's a part of a package that is going to help your team, then absolutely that makes sense. You agree with that, Jonas?
Yeah, if we can keep going, I have lots of thoughts.
You have a lot of thoughts? Do we have Wayne in? Okay, Wayne Simmonds is here. Why don't we ask Wayne?
Yeah.
Get Wayne Simmonds take on all
He's played in
this.
the playoffs.
He has played in the playoffs. Absolutely. All right, Wayne Simmonds is coming up in studio. Ray Ferraro will join us as well today. Pierre LeBrun, Bruce Boudreau, Jonas Siegel of The Athletic in here with the O-Dog. Jeff O'Neill and Bryan Hayes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Ray Ferraro coming up in about 20 minutes. We got a big one today. We have Bob McKenzie in studio earlier in the hour, and the in-studio guests keep coming, man. Wayne Simmonds in the house. How we doing, Wayne?
Not doing too bad.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you guys, too. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for doing this. I saw you had a lot of people hanging around you. You're doing the full shoot match tomorrow. Yeah. You're here for Trade Center. You excited?
Yeah, I'm very excited. Obviously, I've never done anything like this, but it's pretty cool just seeing like the inner workings of everything. So, being here is awesome.
Yeah, it's great, man. It's going to be a fun day tomorrow. And you had a long career, so you dealt with media a lot, and you would have gone through a ton of trade deadlines. Like, everyone's got different stories about tracking stuff. What's the TV on in the room? Twitter, social media. What was your kind of standard procedure week of the trade deadline when you were playing?
Hopefully not hear my name in any trade rumors, but a few times that happened, so it's like you're kind of nervous. You don't want to,
How mad are you when you see a tweet or you just get a vibe from somebody that your name's tossed out there? Like, because I know that I would be pissed.
You know what? It happened a few times where you get offended. You definitely get offended, right? You're like, I thought I'm like a good piece of this team here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I didn't think I need to be traded, but it's a business. It happens, right? So you get offended, but at the same time, it is a business. You got to realize that.
Yeah, there's not much you can do, and if you're tracking it, like I find, if you want to get down a rabbit hole, man, you can find your name almost anywhere. Like,
yeah, but imagine like you're Lindholm and like it's out there.
That would piss me off,
right?
Man.
Because it's not just that you're getting dealt, or you're in rumors. It's like the coach clearly doesn't like you.
Well, what happens is
you get as a guy that
you read that. Who posted it first? CJ.
CJ. Yeah.
CJ posted it out where it's a possible flip from Lindholm. So if I'm Lindholm, I'm like, so you guys don't like me.
I'm going to somebody immediately.
I would have a hate on for everyone else because I'm like, you hate me.
Yeah, immediately. You just got there. Like, I don't understand how you could trade for a guy and then flip him 3 weeks later.
Right.
Like, I guess you're clearly telling him you don't like him. So then at that point, I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to get me out of here then.
So did you ever have those conversations with your GM? Like, I guess you'd have to go to the GM, right?
Yeah, I remember one time in Philly, my agent called me and he's like, you're getting traded to Edmonton. And this is like early in my Philly career. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm scoring like 28 goals a year. Like, you guys are going to trade me? And I get a call from my agent and he's like, you're almost traded. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm literally on my couch with my wife sleeping. He calls me, wakes me up out of my sleep. And then like I get a call from Paul Holmgren, like literally 2 seconds later. And I'm like, Homer, I'm like, what's going on here, man? He's like, we're not trading you. I'm like, okay. He's like, don't ever think we're going to trade you. I'm like, okay. And then
but that's not true either.
Because
that's what's crazy.
Yeah, I know, but like, it was it was kind of reassuring. Like I was still so disheveled. Like I didn't even I had like one eye open. Like I didn't even know what was going on. And I'm like, all right, Homer, like you're gonna give me and they never ended up training me until like 8 years later. So it worked out in the best.
Yeah. See, and that's like my mind would be racing. Like because obviously your agent heard something. Where would he have heard that from? Edmonton? Like
obviously
insiders?
He must have had an in somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So what I was told, he told me. It was a trade for Eberle, me for Eberle, but they couldn't make the money work.
Right.
And I think I was making, I don't even know, I think I was making maybe like 1.75 or something like that, and Ebbs was probably like at $5 million or something like that. And there had to be like a whole bunch of different stuff, inner workings and whatever, so it fell through. But
wow, that's crazy. Wayne Simmonds in studio. Like, we always have to focus so much on the salaries of players because of the cap hits and making trades and, like you said, money falling through. You played your whole career in the cap era. Were you always aware of what like other players in the league were making, or did you just focus on your own bank account and that was kind of it?
You kind of compare yourself to some guys, right? It's like, next contract so this year I did this, and this. Next contract I should be getting that. Same as your agent does. Like there's comparables for everybody, right? So you kind of think about that, but like at the same time it didn't really matter to me. I just wanted to play hockey, and if I was getting paid, I'm going to go and give you every cent that it's worth and more, hopefully.
Right.
So,
yeah. You keep producing, you're going to keep getting paid.
Exactly.
But there's always a guy in mind where you're like, if that guy's making that, I'm not even showing up here for less.
Right. Well, he went through arbitration. Did you ever go through anywhere
No, I never went through ARB. Thank God. I heard it's the worst process ever.
It is flat out
by
disgusting.
far.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Like I don't understand how you could do the ARB and then expect the player to come back and just take it gracefully. I don't know if I could ever do that.
That's what I thought to myself, Simmer. I walked out the door. I'm like, why would I even go back there if they just spent 4 hours saying that? It's like, why don't you just trade me?
Yeah, you obviously don't like anything about my game.
What do they say?
Yeah.
Like, is it like emotional, or is it just like he had this many points, he had this many? Like, what do they say?
I told Hazy a couple of weeks ago, one of the comments was, of all the players I've been around in professional hockey, his performance in the playoff series against the Boston Bruins was one of the worst I've ever seen. So I'm across the table, and I'm like, okay, why do you want me, man? Get rid of me. I don't even want to play for you.
Right. Why are we
awful.
in this process?
What they have to do is they got to get the player out of the room. The player does not need to be in there.
Yeah.
And the agent should just go to the player afterwards and say, let's ask for a trade because that was a joke what I just listened to. Because it is a joke.
Yeah. But then once it's over, like I'm sure you went through some tough contract negotiations, but then they're like, hey, we always wanted you.
Welcome back.
Yeah. This
the
is great,
worst thing
man.
after mine was Jimmy Rutherford called me and he's like, the award came in and it was whatever it was, and it was in favor of me. And he's like, that's probably about right anyway. And I'm like, why didn't you just give me that? Yes, all of that garbage, all that prep work for everybody. And he was like, that's probably about right. And I'm like, okay, great, but why did we have to do that?
Yeah, no kidding. Wayne Simmonds with us in studio. Joel Edmundson acquired by the Leafs. You got a little history with him, right? That video's going right. Did you fight him, or was it just
No, he wouldn't fight me.
No, he wouldn't fight you.
No, I don't know if he wouldn't fight me, but no, it's.
Did you ask him to go?
Of course, I asked. But no, I think Edmundson. He's a great pickup for the Leafs. I personally think anyway. I think where we faltered, in the last few years in playoffs was clearing the front of our net. You bring in Bush, who was already with us with the Leafs. You bring in Eddie. I think those are two big bodies that are going to help clear the front of the net. Now, you gotta. I think in doing that, I think you got to give Liljegren a little bit more rope, so that you need a puck mover now, right? If you have those big boys in there, they can move the puck, but like a guy like Lily, if you give him some confidence, I think he can do wonders.
Really, you're a fan of him?
I love Liljegren. I think he's a great player. I think he's got a really short leash there.
Yeah. Is that Sheldon that doesn't have full faith in him?
Probably. I would assume. He's the coach. He's the one making those decisions.
But
right?
wouldn't you agree, Simmer, that he's got to find a balance of being able to make those plays and also being relied upon in his own zone and doing big boy stuff at the same time?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's kind of, where the drawback is with him right now. But like I think if you go back to, I don't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago, where like almost every single defenseman was out of the lineup. Him and Sandin are playing 20, 25 minutes a night, and
played well,
6
too.
in a row.
Yeah.
Right? And those guys were putting up points. They were playing well defensively. They had confidence, and they knew that they weren't going to get the hook, right? So I think it's a fine line, but I think you give that guy a little bit more leash and you show him confidence that he's going to do wonders for him.
Well, I mean, that is a part of the conversation that, like, size is one thing, puck moving is another. Morgan can do it very well. Beyond, like, McCabe can do it okay, Brody okay, but beyond that, it's like, what are you expecting out of the guys? And there has to be a balance there, clearly. But you made a living in front of the net. I mean, what's the mentality like of a player when you're going in there and there's a guy 6'5", 230 that swings his stick around?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I'm just going to try and go bulldoze through him.
Right.
But, like, for most guys, I don't think they want to get cross-checked in the head, in the back, in the arm, repetitively. So a lot of guys aren't going to, go there, or they'll go there and they'll just flash through. So I think that's a huge piece to the puzzle for them. If they can clear the front of the net, I think they'll have a little bit more success.
Simmer, can you explain to the viewers and listeners, Auston Matthews is incredible. He's having an incredible season already. But it's just like anything else. It's like if you haven't seen Tiger Woods 10 feet away hit a tee shot, then the experience is so much different in person. And you being on the ice with Auston and just seeing the skill set firsthand in practice, like, it's hard to explain to people how good that actually is.
Yeah, he's special. Like, I've never played with a player who could literally score from anywhere at any time, whenever they wanted. Like, he scored 40 last year and he was hurt, right? The year before he scored 60. The year before that, my first year there, he's on pace to probably score 65 in that shortened season, right? I think he had like 42 and 51 or something like that. So, like, and not even that, he's a full 200-foot player. Like, he probably leads the forwards in block shots, minutes played. You go into the corner with him in the offensive zone. He's maybe not going to bulldoze you, but, like, you think you have the puck and you're skating out of the corner and he's gone.
That little stick check he's got. Right? That stripping of the pucks is incredible.
I remember somebody asked me, and I was like, the first time I practiced against Matty, I went into the corner and, like, I went in heavy. And, like, I'm not, like, heavy to knock him, like, around or whatever, but, like, heavy on the puck.
Yeah.
I go in there, I like, kind of, like, shoulder check his stick, whatever. I think I'm coming out of the corner with the puck, and I turn around. And I swear to God, him and Mitchie are on a 2-on-1 the other way. I thought I had the puck still. I was like, oh Lord! I'm like, oh my God, this kid's special.
Right.
Yeah, like, unbelievable.
And those are smaller details.
Yeah, exactly.
But that add up to the greatness of the player.
Big time. And I think that's why. I think if you look at his defensive game, like, when he's coming out of the offensive zone, how many times does he just, like, pick a guy's stick and turn around and start the rush going the other way, right? Like, he's just special in every facet, I think.
Yeah. No, I mean, the guy, he scored again last night. He didn't have much of a game. It was kind of a slow-paced game. And, like, that, Marner to Matthews, we're watching it right now on TSN 2. Like, that's just a gross one-timer. Like, the guy's
same side one-timer. That's disgusting.
That's crazy to end the game. And then they're in Boston tonight, and the history of the Leafs and the Bruins, the Leafs in Tampa, Leafs in Florida. Like, you played in all those matchups. Like, can you feel the difference when you're playing Boston compared to basically anyone else in the league?
Yeah, I think even that was one of the problems we had. We'd play those big teams and we'd get up and we'd play great. And then, you play the teams that are kind of below you and kind of have a lackadaisical night. But when you play those big teams, it's like, every single guy in that room is ready for war. And, the team generally plays really well when they played a team that was, ahead in the standings, or we felt or they feel that, like, they're equal or maybe a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is, I don't know if it's a litmus test. Like, we always talk about that, right, in the media. Like, is that something you guys are doing in the league at any point? Like, do you circle a team, and you just referenced it, like, you guys get up for it, but do you recognize the separation, or is it just, one of 82 and you got to keep even keeled?
I think there's games like that you got to circle. Like, especially when, it could be a potential playoff matchup. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to, like, be ready, like, immediately, or as soon as the puck drops. Like, you gotta let them know that, you're for real. If not, they're probably just gonna, think you're a joke and blah blah blah. It's the same Toronto Maple Leafs team, right?
Yeah. So. Wayne Simmonds joining us here. What do you think of the Reaves Rempe fight on Saturday night?
I thought it was great. I didn't think it was gonna happen, but I thought it was great. I don't think that fight happens if Rempe doesn't hit Bush there. I think it just sleeps, but he gets him, and Revo has to do something about it. And I think Rempe looked to the bench and asked Labby for permission there.
It looked like
he was trying to get off, but it ended up being a great tilt. I think both guys threw some bombs, had both connected with a couple, and it was a good fight.
Simmer, I played in the league for a long time, but I still do not know the inner workings of this. Who decides and how does it work if it's going to sleep? Like, is that just one of those things where, because it's such a weird dynamic.
Yeah, I know.
And it's really between the guys fighting, but Who makes the call on what's going to sleep, when it's going to sleep, and how that all goes down?
I don't know. I guess it's
because it seems like it's almost different every time.
It is. It's just the tone of the game. I think I watched that game, and it was like Reaves wanted it, right? Like he asked him.
Well, yeah.
He asked him like a few times, and you can see Rempe's like, "Oh, I just fought like 4 times in the last 3 nights."
Right.
Like, he's like, "I'm going to leave this one alone." But I think he realized, which I appreciated. Once he hit Bush, he had to do something.
Yeah.
Because if not, like, what if Reaves goes out and takes Panarin's head off or something like that, right? Like,
you got to give him credit, man. That Rempe kid, like he's like taking on Reaves and
Olivier
and Martin,
Delorier.
Like those are 4 monsters.
Isn't he bigger than all of them though?
Well, technically he is, yeah, but he doesn't have the fighting history that any of them have.
It's like it's also like how those guys fight, right? Those guys, like the technique that they fight with, right? Like for me watching Rempe fight, I don't think he has the technique yet. He's long, he's strong, and he can throw bombs, but
his technique is just hold a guy out and throw bombs.
Yeah, exactly. But like if you watch what like Delorier and Olivier did to him, like over, under, and his head was just like this, right? So
you gotta watch
I think if he's going to continue to do that, he's going to obviously have to figure it out. But I give him all the credit in the world. When you're a young guy and you're trying to make the NHL, I would do that. If I were him, I'd do the same thing.
Yep, he's definitely got stones, man.
Careful, Simmer. The hurt feelings crowd might be offended.
Not us, man. Not us. Don't look around here. All right, Trade Center tomorrow starting at 8 a.m. Wayne Simmonds, you'll be there, man. We can't wait for it.
Thanks, guys. I can't wait. I'm excited.
It's going to be a blast. Wayne Simmonds joining us around the table. It'll be a big part of Trade Center tomorrow here on TSN. Hour 2 coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.